feel like you're being pulled in 1,000 directions? Let's fix that. Download your free rebalancing toolkit and learn how to design an optimized week that lets you feel like you have it all. Get the goods at brilliantbalance.net/have-it-all.
I'm Cherylanne Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. Hello and welcome. This is episode 35 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. And it is one of those just perfect summer days here. You know, it's days like this that I think I'm the most grateful that I no longer go to work in a fluorescent lit cubicle anymore. Being able to work from home in the early morning and then go into the office space that I have for my team, which is actually right in the historic district. It's just like a 3-minute commute from my house. And being able to stop and get some sunshine whenever I want it's such a blessing. And I don't say that to brag or to taunt you, but really to inspire you, because for way too long, I didn't think this was possible. You know, I candidly thought the price would just be too high to get this life. I was really comfortable in my fairly cushy corporate job. It was prestigious, it was lucrative, it was secure. I mean, why would anyone leave, right? And I used to say sometimes, is this all there is? You know, is this really all I'm really cut out to do? But then I would stay because I was never sure. I was never really certain that I could sort things to an even better outcome. I guess I was always worried there would be a trade down, except that I knew somewhere deep inside that there had to be more for me, that, I was called to a bigger impact and called to more purpose-driven work that came with even more flexibility and even more control than I'd already been able to have in that corporate life. But I was stuck in what I now refer to as a Goldilocks job. And that's what we're going to talk about today is Goldilocks jobs. First of all, I want to explain what is a Goldilocks job. What's the definition that I'm using here? Second, how do you know when you're in one? What is the qualification or the set of characteristics that tell you, are you in a Goldilocks job? And then the third thing I want to talk about is I want to challenge the assumption that most people make about Goldilocks jobs when they're in them. So that's kind of the path that we're going to follow in today's episode, because I work with a lot of women who are in Goldilocks jobs. In this work that I've chosen to do, where I'm advising really high achieving women on fulfilling their potential, this comes up a lot. So first, what is a Goldilocks job? Well, the first criteria, it's not too hot, it's not too cold, but it's certainly not just right. And if you think about what a Goldilocks job is, it's one where there are a lot of reasons to stay. It's keeping you just comfortable enough that you don't have that truly compelling reason to bail. But it's never truly exciting or purpose-driven either, right? So maybe there are benefits or security or a set of perks, or maybe there is prestige or a high income to the job. And so it's sort of like being in warm bathwater. There's nothing really uncomfortable about it on either side that would cause you to get up and jump out. But you're never really going to thoroughly enjoy it. You're never really going to feel like it is an amazing place to be or an amazing experience. So when you're trying to decide if you're in one, this is what I would say. If you've ever been in a conversation about your work and you heard yourself say the words, "But I'm making so much money," then I have really bad news for you. you are in the wrong job, right? No further questions. I don't need to know anything else. This one statement is enough at this point for me to tell. And it's not the making money part that's the problem, by the way. I have absolutely no issue with people wanting to have a high income or having high income. In fact, I applaud it, right? I think when you're creating a lot of value in the world, it often comes with a high level of personal reward, and that often comes in the form of a high income. It's not the money part. It's the word but. But I'm making so much money. But I don't really love what I'm doing. It's that pause. But I have a lot of flexibility. I don't really love what I'm doing, but I have these great benefits. I'm not sure this is all there is, but I worked so hard to get here. But other people would kill for this job. But this is what I went to school for. It's the but. And then this kind of long sigh of resignation, so I can't possibly leave. Well, listen, that commentary, that inner dialogue where you sort of state something negative about the job, but then you ground yourself in a sentence that causes you to settle, that is the pattern. That is the defining characteristic of a Goldilocks job. It means that there is something about the circumstances that you have deemed valuable enough or irreplaceable enough that you no longer feel like you have an option. Like the choice has been taken away, and this is now the only path that you could be on. And it causes a cycle of thinking that kind of ends in the phrase, so I can't leave, right? That whole pattern. There's this characteristic about the job, but this other thing about it is really good, but I'm making so much money, so I can't leave. Well, the challenge that I want to issue here, the commonly held belief that I want to question is that true? Is it true that you can't leave? Because you can, in fact, leave. All right. The truth is you 100% for sure, no doubt about it, absolutely can leave. You are just choosing not to. And that can be uncomfortable, right? Confronting that can make you kind of feel sick to your stomach because maybe you don't like the consequences that leaving would bring. Right? Maybe you're scared and you don't like the fear that surfaces when you think about it. Maybe you're just a little too comfortable where you are. But telling yourself that you can't leave, it's not only untrue, it's kind of psychologically dangerous. So when you tell yourself, I can't leave, what you're doing is you're pulling yourself out of agency, which is the state of being where you have some control over the outcome. And you're stepping into this limiting belief that you have no choice in the matter, that you are a victim of your circumstances and you have no control. So when you hear yourself rationalizing, why you're staying in this job that you don't like or that you don't love, and you hear yourself let out that long, deep sigh of resignation, and then you kind of tidy things up and go on about your day, I want you to catch yourself in that pattern. And what I want you to do instead is tune into what you're really saying, because the messaging, the little unconscious messaging that's surfacing over and over again in here, it actually does matter. Okay. So which phrase you pick matters. If you always say, I can't leave, but I make so much money, right? I don't love the job, but I make so much money, so I can't leave. What that tells you is that either you like to make a lot of money or you need to make a lot of money. And that's great. Go look into one of the other 72 million jobs out there that also pay a lot of money until you find one that you would actually love doing. It's like the idea is, can you take that truth for you, hold it constant, and still sort to a better outcome?
Feel like you're being pulled in 1,000 directions? Let's fix that. Download your free rebalancing toolkit and learn how to design an optimized week that lets you feel like you have it all. Get the goods at brilliantbalance.net/have-it-all.
Okay, here's another one. If you always say, I don't love what I do, but I have a ton of flexibility. This company is offering me so much flexibility, so I can't leave. Well, awesome. You've just learned that flexibility matters to you, right? So protect for that in your next role. Make sure that whatever the work is that you choose to do next, that you have protected that level of flexibility. But, don't act like you've just taken the one and only job on the planet that provides flexibility, because there are thousands and thousands. Here's the pattern you're probably seeing. Most often, when you're saying, I can't leave, it's like a half-baked thought. You haven't really let yourself think it all the way through. So you've made a set of assumptions that they might be true, but most likely they're not, right? And so it's that falsehood that's keeping you stuck. So you say, I don't love this job, but I make so much money, so I can't leave. What's the implicit assumption there? That there is no other job that you would like better where you would make the same amount of money, or maybe even more. And what I would ask you if you hear yourself saying that is, have you actually done the work to find out? How much exploration have you done? How far have you pushed that idea to see what's possible? Or have you just stopped at that thought and kind of kept going? Because when we say, I can't leave, it's a little bit of a cop-out. I mean, it's a lot of a cop-out. What we're really saying is, I choose not to. So staying in a job that you don't love is a choice. And if you're going to make that choice, then you need to call it what it is. Start saying, I'm choosing to stay in a job I don't love. That's a lot harder to say. That is a lot harder to get out of your mouth than I can't leave. So I can't leave is like abdicating your own personal responsibility. It's just ceding control of the situation to some invisible authority, right? I can't do it because what I would be giving up is too great. But how do you know you'd actually be giving that up? If instead you get really clear about what you want, the whole set of criteria, not just the income, but the flexibility and the activities that you would be doing every day. If you put your focus on that, on what is it about your current work that you don't like? What doesn't feel meaningful enough? What doesn't feel exciting enough? What isn't keeping you growing? That's what we're looking to actually change. And we want to hold constant the elements that you already know are important to you, like the income or the benefits or the flexibility. So when you get clear about what you want, and you also get clear about what you're willing to do to get it, then you go out there and you explore your options. There are so many ways to try these ideas on for size. You can start with just exploring them on paper, but ultimately you want to move it into the marketplace and have conversations about what it is that you really want to bring to the world. And what's the purpose behind that and the meaning behind that? And then you want to figure out, is there a way to do that and still have some of the goodies that come with these other corporate jobs? Now, I do not have my head in the clouds. You may temporarily make trade-offs in some of those other areas to get the work you want. But if you're not looking at the total picture, you're not really able to make that clear-headed decision, right? So I mentioned my story at the beginning. In my case, there were some temporary trade-offs in a couple of aspects of the job that have rebounded. They have since more than caught up with where they were in the corporate job that I didn't want to stay in. Some of my clients, in fact, lots of my clients, have really shortened that trade-off period. By bringing some advice into the cycle earlier, they've been able to learn from my mistakes, candidly. And so for them, they're able to get the whole picture that they want, sometimes, honestly, with zero trade-offs, and some with very temporary and very minor setbacks that they can recover from because they're intentional, right? They're making that choice with intentionality. They're not just falling into it. They don't feel victimized by it. I would say, as I've been out here advising these women for the last number of years through this exploration, what I've learned is sometimes the first issue that has to be solved is creating some time to think. And no one seems to do that naturally. We wait for a crisis to force us into contemplation. we lose the job, or our husband loses the job, or there's a health crisis in the family, or the company gets shut down. There's some kind of crisis that forces us into contemplation. And at that point, we're in a massive hurry and we want change yesterday and we feel a lot of pressure. But we haven't reached clarity yet. We haven't reached the clarity that comes from having a well-timed pause. So you can spin your wheels at that point for a while because you haven't really figured out the outcome. To me, it is a lot like waiting until your car breaks down to buy the next car. And all of a sudden, you're in a scramble of comparing features and benefits and price points and dealerships and delivery dates, but you have to have a car. So you're at risk of making a suboptimal decision because you don't really have a lot of time. So what I'm going to do next week is I am going to get into this territory of when do you need to take a pause to get clarity, right? I'm going to help you decide if you need to slow down for a minute to get clarity about what it is that you want before you do the full court press on going after it. If today's content about Goldilocks jobs has been resonating with you, you're going to want to pay particular attention to that episode because it will help you with a framework for how you might really mentally design the optimal kind of work for you before you begin bringing that work into being. It's going to be a great conversation because I think it's really counterintuitive for a lot of us to ever slow down. We're kind of addicted to speed, and sometimes intentionally slowing down is what delivers speed over the long term. So that's what's coming up. So today what we talked about is, are you in a Goldilocks job? How do you know what one is? How do you know the criteria for determining if you are in one? And the critical criteria we talked about was if you find yourself saying, I don't really love this, but I can't leave because of this one positive attribute that I'm really attached to, that's kind of the indication of being in a Goldilocks job. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. And so it doesn't really give you the push to get out there and test the waters on what else might be available to you. And then my parting words to you are, if you have discovered that you are in fact in a job that is a Goldilocks job, you can in fact leave. There is a path forward from there to something that could be far better than you ever imagined, and I would be happy to help you find it. Okay, so come find me in the Brilliant Balance group on Facebook. We'll dig into this a little bit more later in the week. And over time, we'll help you really find even more ways to get your life in order and explore those brilliant possibilities that are waiting for you. So till next time, my friends, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.